Let's talk about pain points. Pain points are kind of the phrase that copywriters and marketers often use to describe the areas in people's life that causes them pain. And it can be small pains like they don't really love the car that they drive, to big pains like they've experienced something that was extremely harmful in their life. And now it's a common thing in the world of marketing and copywriting to use these pain points to have a conversation with somebody, and oftentimes it evokes a lot of fear. Now, I gotta say, it is so crazy to me that I'm a copywriter because if you had told me that I would be a copywriter 10 years ago, I would have never believed you because I had such a strong association with manipulation and marketing. And I just thought all marketing was bad, quite frankly. And by the way, I'm Sarah Turner. I'm a freelance medical copywriter and a copywriting mentor. And I think this is one of the most important conversations that needs to be had and continue to have had in the world of marketing is the use of pain points in copywriting specifically. Because when it's not done ethically or consciously, it can cause a lot of pain and harm. It can be used as a tool of manipulation. And another reason I love talking about this is because even if you're not a copywriter, I think it's really important as a consumer, which we all are, to be informed on the subject. Because when you're informed on the subject of marketing and copywriting, you're going to be far less susceptible to it. And what I mean by that is far less susceptible to actually the dark side of it. Because I do not think that marketing or copywriting is inherently wrong. It's just how it's done with the intent that it's done and if it's done ethically and consciously. So let's talk about pain points. Do you have to use them in your marketing to get a result? So the short answer is no. Actually, you can really come from a place of empowerment to get somebody to make a purchase of your product or service. And that is really what I aim to do. However, sometimes you are going to touch on their pain points. Now, there's a lot of different things that you can do to make sure that you're doing this from a good place, really. Because ultimately, the point here is to end up in just the right people's hands. I often say that good copywriting is like matchmaking. You end up pairing just the right product or service with just the right person. And when you know that that is the ultimate goal, then you are going to be able to write copy from a much more ethical place. Copy is really powerful, and how you use it is super, super important. If you are writing copy where the primary motivating emotions are guilt, fear, and shame, I would say that that is not ethical copy. And it's really hard to discuss all of this because, quite frankly, it probably exists on a spectrum, right? And for someone, a type of copy might be harmless, while for another, based on their own personal experiences, maybe even trauma, it could actually be a really harmful piece of copy. So just know that while we're having this conversation, that there is a gray area, and ultimately, it's up to you to do the best that you can to not create more pain in today's world. I think that's a really important part of our job as ethical and conscious copywriters. But one of the key things, again, is kind of noticing are the primary emotions that you're trying to evoke in somebody, guilt, fear, or shame, then that is a red flag. They can be evoked a little bit, and that is not necessarily a bad thing. But if it is the primary emotional motivators, then you really should check how you're writing your copy, quite frankly. And a lot of that stuff is like heavily ego driven. Like, for example, without this product, you're going to be less of a man, or you're going to forever be incompetent and unhappy and miserable if you don't buy this product, right? It's the over the top stuff that really makes it easy to spot. But there's also sometimes like covert ways that this is being used. Because as the consumer has gotten smarter, right, over the years, marketers have gotten smarter. In fact, I want to just touch on something that I've noticed recently is that documentaries are being used kind of as like a digital white paper. White papers are a type of copy that's usually complicated, usually pitching something that is more expensive, like a medical device or product, and it needs to appear very unbiased. And now documentaries are being created. Actually, what happened is I was flipping through Netflix and I noticed the number of SpaceX documentaries. And I was like, wow, this is the new age of marketing. We're getting smart, consumers getting smarter, and therefore copywriters and marketers are figuring out how to be, still pitching their end result, but by seeming unbiased. So again, none of this is inherently wrong, and it is important for you as a consumer to be aware of this. But also, as a copywriter, because that's who I'm mostly talking to here, it's important for you to make sure that you are doing this from an ethical and conscious place. Okay, so I've said that a few times now, and I'm definitely need to get a little bit off my soapbox and give you some examples, right? So let's talk a little bit about what you can do and how you can notice what you're integrating into your copy besides not making guilt, shame, or fear the primary motivators. And let's talk about what you can do. So one of the things you can do is be honest with yourself, primarily, that your product and service is not for everyone. And quite frankly, when you do that, not only are you going to be able to get real clear and better in your copy, but you're not going to have to use really over-the-top manipulative techniques to get people to buy your product or service. In fact, we often talk about how in copy you should be repelling the wrong person, but I'd like to take it one step further and argue that not only should you be repelling the wrong people, but you shouldn't be attracting the right people just by exploiting their fears. Just truly. Instead, you can paint an image of a desirable future to move towards and kind of highlight the differences between where they currently are and where they want to go. Because at the end of the day, what your prospect really wants is the transformation that your product or service offers them. So you can paint a desired future and empower them to make the right steps and the educated decision to move to that place. Another way that you can make a subtle shift in kind of not using pain points in a manipulative way that really plays on people's insecurities is you can use imagery that's niche specific. Okay, so I've kind of been obsessing over like cottagecore style. I don't know, maybe it's because I secretly want to live on a farm. But one of the things that you could say if you are selling a cottagecore style dress or, an older fashioned looking dress, instead of saying things that imply that you need this dress to feel beautiful, it could be that you're writing it more to the playful side of them, right? So you're saying with this dress, you're going to feel like you are straight out of Bridgerton or something like that. So the subtlety is one, admitting not only that they will be beautiful with or without the dress, but two, also not implying that they need it to feel beautiful. And then also you're touching on the other sides of them. Again, the playful side of them, the part of them that would love to just have this dress because it feels amazing, right? Another thing you can do to more ethically play with pain points in your copy is to play up the low risk but high emotional benefits. Because keep in mind, annoyances and frustrations and solving those with a product or service are really powerful motivators. So you don't need to get into the really risky, dangerous area and make it something that's super extreme and fear-based. For example, let's say you have a really amazing electrolyte drink that's going to help people with keto flu, help athletes. It's really high in electrolytes. It's got a lot of, maybe adaptogens in it. And so you can really emphasize how this might crush the midday slump, how it might help them get that energy back after they've eaten lunch and feel all groggy. Also, you can touch on how they won't have to go through keto flu, which is something that people really are worried about when they're starting the keto diet. Rather than, touching on the fact that they're not healthy, and if they want to be healthy, this is the thing that's going to make them healthy and like their favorite athlete, and really touching into the ego desire to be something that they're not. So again, these are real subtle differences here, but they are really important as you move through the world being the wonderful copywriter that you are. Another tip I have for you is to stay away from pain points that don't align with your values. And what I mean by that is I probably would never write for anything that is about weight loss. The keto diet I do write about, but I think that's an actual lifestyle change, and it's really important because it kind of touches on the old school nutrition advice that fat is what makes you fat. And so I'm really interested in kind of pushing back on that because actually it's impacted my life in a personal way. And so I, would just never focus on something that is purely about weight loss, but instead something that's about actually having a more healthy and holistic life. So think about the things that are just like harmful in general. Body image is something that a lot of people struggle with. And so it's important to make sure that you're not manipulating and using that as a pain point to get people to maybe purchase a supplement or something like that. Because we all know that there's not really any quick solution to getting your health back on track, right? So think about the things in your life that are important to you and that have caused you pain, and just make sure that you are always trying to write in alignment with your values, and you're not, perpetuating some of the common pains that people have, or even the pains that you have within yourself. I have fully told a client that I could not work with him any longer because I thought that the advice that he was pushing through his products and services was harmful. And that is absolutely within your right as a copywriter to say that you will not write something that you think is actually going to cause harm. And quite frankly, it's why I'm a freelancer and could never work with an agency, because I have to believe in the products that I'm writing about. And that's kind of a simple one, right? Just don't promote bad products. If you are in the discovery phase with a client and you suddenly discover that they are not what they say they are, it is totally appropriate, and you should feel well within your right to say, no, thank you, this is not for me. And obviously you can do that with a ton of grace. You don't need to burn any bridges on your way out, but definitely walk away. This next one is super important. Now, I think it's a really important step in ethical copy to use pain points to validate somebody's experience or emotions, not to make them feel less than or small for whatever it was that they are experiencing, right? So you can absolutely say something along the lines of, wow, that makes a lot of sense. It's no wonder that you feel this way. It's also going to put you guys kind of on the same team, which is really powerful. Like, I see you, I understand you, I have a shared experience, and therefore we are like of the same family, right? So that's super powerful if it's true. Obviously, you want to make sure it's true, but it's a really powerful and subtle difference than using that experience to create, again, guilt, shame, and fear, right? And now that's not to say that those feelings won't exist. We cannot help everything. And again, everybody has such a varied personal experience that it's impossible to never have a negative impact on someone, but we can do our best to be aware of it. And I really think a powerful thing that you can do in your copy to help this is to validate your reader's experience. Okay, the next one I want you to do is to think about how the product or service is going to bring relief or joy or other emotions that are typically considered more positive. Because again, when you are focusing on the powerful benefits and how it's going to result in a positive change in your prospect's life, that is going to be so much more of an empowered place that they're buying from, again, rather than kind of touching on the things that cause them a ton of pain. And again, you might have to kind of touch on that just because it's inherently a part of the story, but you do have a lot of say in how much you emphasize that, right? It's all about the amount in which you emphasize the current place that they're in, the discomfort that they're experiencing, and then ultimately where you can take them. And quite frankly, having a good product or service is really important in that, right? Because when you know it's actually going to help someone, it's going to make this a whole lot easier for you to write. And then finally, I want to leave you with this one last thought. Just remember that you're not supposed to create pain points. You are actually just kind of highlighting something that already exists. And again, how your product or service is just the right thing to help them alleviate that particular pain. All of this is super subtle. And I think it takes some practice and awareness to really see the subtleties in it. And it's taken me years to get to a place where I really understand this. And with each product and service I write for, it's slightly different. And the best way that you can make sure you're moving into a place of writing more ethical, conscious copy is to get to know your audience as well as you can. Because the more you do that, the more you're going to honestly have empathy for them, right? Because as you're doing your research and you're interacting with them, you're going to see they are just humans trying to bring more ease and joy into their life. And when you can connect with them truly in life it's going to make not only your copy more powerful, but hopefully more ethical. So again, know that this is an ongoing process. Know that you are probably going to make mistakes and that you're going to learn, oh, I could have done a better job here. Because I definitely look back at some of my old copy and I'm like, ooh, that was overt, sloppy, and quite frankly, really highlighting the guilt, shame, and fear. And that was when I was first learning. And so just know that it's an ongoing practice, that it's something that is absolutely worth honing, because as I have made this shift from moving away from old school copywriting techniques and kind of refined it into my new age version of it, with the core being empowerment, my copy has gotten much, much better. And I really attribute that to the fact that, one, I think it's the right thing to do. I think it collectively lifts us all up in a better way. And also, I think it's because consumers are getting smarter. And quite frankly, I am here for that. I wish more people studied marketing just so that they had a basic understanding of how it impacts their life on a day-to-day basis, because we're all impacted by marketing. And again, I just want to leave you with truly, there's nothing inherently wrong with marketing and copywriting. I've really come to believe that. It's how it's used, and quite frankly, we can all get a little bit better with every passing day, really. So I hope this helps. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if this really resonated with you. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, guys.